So anybody that has been not living under a rock is aware that the real estate market has just been nuts this year in 2022. It's been quite the roller coaster ride. And right now with the rates rising, it has really kind of put some people in a quandary about what to do and how to best navigate if they need to buy, sell, move in any way. So today I wanted to talk with lender from Encompass Lending, Jeff Hargreaves, about an option that could help buyers and sellers move forward in the market. So Jeff, what you going to talk about today?
Yeah, perfect. Yeah, as Tracy said, months ago we had a lot of pre-qualified buyers. Months ago, a year and a half ago, we had pre-qualified buyers qualified at a certain interest rate, call it 4%, 4.5%, 5%. And what's happened as rates have crept up, it's not only taken that buyer pool out because many people can no longer afford the current interest rate, be it around 7% ish. And then the ones that still can afford it are now on the fence. They're scared. They don't want to enter into the home at that rate. All right.
Right.
So the 2-to-1 buy down scenario essentially helps, as you said, helps the buyer and the seller. Helps the buyer maybe get off the fence. Maybe some of these people that just want to jump back in and would be happy with a 5% or a 5.25% interest rate. It allows them to see that relief for a year. So a 2-to-1 buy down scenario allows the buyer to jump in for the first year, 2% lower than the qualifying interest rate for the first year. For the second year, 1% lower than the qualified interest rate. So if we bring a buyer to the table and they qualify at 7.25%, for the first year, they will get 5.25%. And the second year, they'll get 6.25% interest rate. This is still a fixed rate 30-year mortgage. So at the beginning of the third year, they will go back to the 7.25%. Our hopes is that, and almost 19 out of 20 investors are looking at this, and they think that by the end of the third quarter of 2023, we're going to begin to see a slide down of interest rates. Not going to be fast, and that's good because fast moving interest rates is not a healthy thing. So if it's a good, slow decrease, that will be a good thing for us. Point being is if we can get them in at the 2% interest rate lower for the first year, 1% for the second year, easily by the time the third year hits, we should see a nice lull in the interest rates, and they can refi into a great interest rate. By great, I mean 5%, somewhere like that. I'm just
Right.
speculating, pure speculation, right?
Right. We've all been kind of conditioned the past couple of years to think, 3%, 4% is normal, and it's not.
No,
And the
no,
2-1 buy down, it's not new, right? It's not a new idea. It's just we haven't
absolutely
needed
not.
it.
Absolutely not. And market conditions create creativity, right? So the
Mhm.
market
Right.
conditions now, we're seeing it to where um, homes are not flying off the market on the listing side.
Mhm.
Buyers are slowing down. We're having to do a little more. We're having to entice buyers. So this is, and I'll just hit on briefly how this helps both the seller and the buyer. So obviously, we just kind of went into the buyer side, right? So we can get a buyer in at a lower interest rate, get them off the fence, possibly get them into a home, which is, I mean, that's our goal, right? On the seller side, there's two things that are happening here. So some homes that we're listing aren't getting a lot of traction right off the bat, right? So they're sitting on the market a little bit, a lot longer than anybody wants them to. We're starting to consider a price reduction in a home. um, what happens here is that we can use the seller funds to what happens is buy the interest rate down, right? For less than what you would have to reduce the home price reduction. I hope that makes sense. I kind of just stumbled through that, but
Yeah. So in other words, like you have a home that's priced at 400, rather than drop it down to 375,
right.
maybe use those funds
Yes,
to offer a rate buy down.
sure. And to use your number. So let's say this was a $400,000 home, and rather than decrease it down to 375, the 2-1 buy down would cost the seller $8,100. Okay.
Okay.
Right. So right there, we see the upside to the seller not having to come off, the $15,000. Right. So
Right. Because really in reality, if you drop your price five, $10,000, that's not going to entice that many more buyers.
it's exactly right. It's exactly right. So So we're looking out for our seller. So instead of coming off that big chunk of money in the reduction, we're coming off literally half of what we were going to reduce the price, do the price reduction for. And in the MLS listing, we can put in there contact Encompass lending for a 2-to-1 buy down. And that's something that's kind of the hardest part. That's the
Right.
right. Yeah. How do we convey this message? How do we get this message to our buyer? That's probably the biggest challenge, because the facts of the 2-to-1 buy down on the buyer and seller side are great, but how do we get it to the buyer? That's been a little bit of the challenge. But again, from the seller side, here's another thing, Tracy. We're doing this. I have an agent here in Raleigh who's, rather than waiting on a listing that's, if the listing's going for 300,000, just it's good, it's getting showings, it's good. Okay, well then this wouldn't really apply, would it? Right? But what he's doing is he's saying, oh, I'm about ready to have this listing at 400,000. What is it going to cost my seller to do a 2-1 buy down right off the bat? This thing hasn't even been listed yet. So if I tell him it's going to cost 8,100, he's just adding the 8,100 to the list price and then putting it in MLS right away to try to get buyers right away, right? It doesn't always work. Like, it's not always going to work, but he's figuring in that buy down cost right off the bat.
Right. It's all about, like you said, creativity and how to help your sellers and your buyers
Right. Yeah. Trying to
in
drive
a
people to
challenging market. Yeah.
drive people to the table. Like on the, if you want to, do you want to pop up that flyer? Maybe we can kind of just for numbers sake,
Yeah.
we can just go through the monthly cost savings for the first year and the second year. And it kind of recaps what I was just saying. All right. So the first column on the left, the market rate and price, is just your regular listing, 500,000, 5% down payment, right? The
Okay.
middle column, the price reduction, that's if you were going to come off the home $20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
Column to the right, listing $500,000, right? 2-to-1 buy down. Well, assume 5% down payment. So we're going to we'll work off the loan amount.
Okay.
So this buyer qualified at 7.345. I wish they'd used a little easier of a number. Actually, they didn't right here, did they? No, they didn't. What did we qualify? 7.25. Okay. Borrower
Okay.
qualified at 7.25. Okay. So on midway down that third column to the right, you see monthly savings. So this borrower coming in at 5.25 for the first year saves $617 per month for the first year. Okay.
Right. That's great. That's a lot.
Second, yep. Second year we jumped to 6.25, and they save $315. Okay. So it's obvious. So at the very bottom, you see what the seller proceeds, what the seller nets, right? So the seller is going to net 488,000 at the end of the day, rather than the 480,000 if you just did a price reduction, and the price reduction is not going to bring as many buyers to the table, like you had previously mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
So let's
Very
clear up
cool.
some obvious, maybe possible obstructions. All right. So where does this money go, and can they refi out quicker than the 2 year? What happens with all this? Is there any prepayment penalty, or any? No. The answer is no. So this gets added. It's not an addendum, but it gets added to the contract. It's a separate form. It's a separate disclosure that gets added to the contract. If the buyer purchases the home and sells in a year, all that money goes right directly to the principal of the loan. Okay. So yeah. So that's been something people have been asking. It's a great question, but it goes right to the principal. So there's no penalty for doing this. This is just, as we said, it's a creative way to move the buyer towards the home. And it's a creative way to, not protect the seller, but you're looking after the seller's funds and the seller's proceeds at the end of the day, and possibly just getting the home moved, selling it for them. I'm trying to think what else I could possibly add here. What questions do you have, Tracy? What can we add to this?
So I see where there's an 87-month break even. And obviously that
Yeah.
number is going to be different based on all the scenarios, right?
Yes. And great question. Also, this flyer, when it was created, this assumes that the buyer and the seller are sharing the fee. Okay.
Okay.
Right. Because you can only, the buyer can only contribute 50% of the cost to this. At max. So the buyer can't just buy the whole thing out, right? It's a seller concession. So the buyer can only contribute 50%. We're not even going that route. We're not even, this form was created without this whole thing in mind. I
Okay.
tried to get our marketing team to take it out. So basically disregard this break even, because it's assuming that the buyer is contributing to this buy down.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Okay.
great, good question. I wanted to get rid of it. I can't get rid of it. But I mean, I would just completely disregard it. We're trying to use seller funds to do this, and still benefit both the seller and the buyer.
Exactly. And like you said, it's a conventional loan,
Yep.
so there's no other kind of, early payoff.
No early payoff penalty. It's good for primary residence and second homes. Okay.
Okay. Oh,
Yeah.
wow. Second homes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Second homes as well, not investment property, but primary and secondary. That's it. Um,
Okay. All right.
yeah. I mean, we've noticed some good people are very open minded to this. Obviously, buyers are, and I mean, sellers. We got the thing is, we're still learning how to convey the message to the buyer. I believe now this is kind of more your wheelhouse. Maybe you can help me out here. I believe, isn't there somewhere in the MLS where like a notes section where you can add something like this, like contact Encompass Lending for a 2-1 buy down scenario option, or is there something?
Yeah, there's right. It depends on your MLS, obviously, but there are like private agent remarks, and then there's public remarks and things you
Okay,
can add in. But it's not necessarily something that you can market, um, that's going to be immediately noticeable. So
okay,
then it just falls back onto being, like you're doing creative financing. As a realtor, we have to do creative marketing, right? And
okay,
so that just would fall back on me, on making sure that buyers and agents are aware of my seller's offer,
sure,
to do this buy down. Um, so there are lots of kind of creative things that maybe we can talk about in the future, but I really just wanted to focus on this one today. So I really
sure.
appreciate you sharing and kind of breaking it down for us in such an easy to understand way.
Yeah, I hope it was. And I also have additional 2-1 buy down flyers that I can send to you on the side, Tracy. I'll send it
Okay,
to you. Yeah,
great.
they're not super informative, but they're professional looking. They break down in bullet point kind of the gist of it. Um, yeah, I just kind of wanted to be able to talk through it a little bit. But yeah, for sure, we can do a follow up on this, or we can just move into the next creative financing scenario in another video. But yeah,
Yeah, we'll do it. I
appreciate you
appreciate
having
that.
me on here, and getting a chance to talk about this. I think I mean,
Okay.
we've had some pretty good success with it, and it's not weird, and it benefits everybody. So I feel,
Yeah.
it's a positive thing.
I think so. I think so. It's
Yeah.
cool. All
Yeah.
right. Well, thank you so much, Jeff. And I hope you have a great rest of your Monday.
You too. Thank you very much. Have a good one, Tracy.
You too. Bye
Okay,
bye.
bye.